course, I said yeah. I'm good. I got it.
Hey, we're live. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Superhero Chat. I'm Jonathan, and this is Lewis.
Hi. As always.
That's right. We're here. Our topic for tonight is the most powerful comic book characters.
DC and Marvel.
DC and Marvel. So we're gonna rank them from who we think is the least powerful in the top 10 to the most powerful comic book character that we know of. So
we actually cheated and it's a top 12.
we always do stuff like that. So, but first we've got our news and notables.
All right. So as always, I got to be plugging the Wake Forest Mini Comic Con. Look at that artwork. Isn't that great? You can come and have your picture made like those folks. But anyway, August 10th, 2019. Costs us $5 to get in. Kids 6 and under are free. I know last year if you came dressed in costume, you got in free. So come check it out. Play for Life Comics. They're the sponsor. And we'll be checking in with Brandon on Wednesday because it's Detective 1000. And I'm excited. I've seen some of the preview art for some of the stories and stuff. I'm looking forward to the Denny O'Neil story. It's a follow-up on the What Happened in Crime Alley or whatever. So it's all revolving around Batman's origin and stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've read all the way up to 998.
Yeah.
So I've got one more day to catch up and read 999.
I don't think they're connected.
Oh, really?
In the truest sense. Like, I don't think... I think the story you're reading ends in 999.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't think you're going to have a problem there.
Okay. Well, I still want to read it before Detective. Hey, somebody's on. Welcome.
Hey, if nothing else, bring it Wednesday when you come and I'll read it to you before we get 1000.
There you go. There you go. Read it to me.
That's right.
But yeah. So I'm excited about 1000, and if you're new here, Lewis and I have been planning to do some kind of live stream or whatnot Wednesday. Not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet, but it'll be fun and awesome. And Brandon may show up. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get him in on something.
So that'll be fun. Good to see him again. So I'm driving all the way down there to hang out and. Should have a good time.
One time you dropped in the comic book store and Batman was there.
That's right.
How cool would that be if Batman were there on Detective 1000?
Who knows who's going to be there, right?
Right.
Actually, I got an email from, Newberry Comics?
Yes.
The one that I ordered, so it's on the way.
Awesome.
So I'm excited about that. That is my computer.
Did they send you any tracking information? Because it would be really awesome if you got it like tomorrow night. And could bring it with you?
I doubt that I would get it then.
Yeah.
It's probably 2-day shipping. I mean, the other one took about a week to get here, so.
That's slack.
I mean, they may try to get it to me since it's new. They might try to get it to me
on the day.
So,
yeah.
But I won't be here on the day. But I will certainly show you.
He'll come home and tell you guys how awesome that cover is.
That's right. I'll probably do some kind of stream for it because I bought that cover specifically because it's so cool.
It's beautiful,
so,
yeah.
Speaking of, I'm pretty mad at, for the first time at the Teen Titans book. Yeah. Hey, Danzier, welcome. He says, hey, I'm pretty mad at the Teen Titans book. We've been talking about, to talk about some of the comics we've been reading. I've been catching up with the Teen Titans, and that series has been excellent. I think it's Adam Glass writing.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It's excellent. I thought it was going to be terrible just from the look of it. I was like, I don't care about any of these characters, but Glass has made me care about them, and or at least some of them. And he's doing wonderful things for Wally West 2 and for Damian Wayne.
I was gonna say I've caught previews of it, and I'm like, wow, I don't hate Damien as much as I once did.
So I think Tomasi's the one that really pushed me to start liking him.
Damien, yeah.
But Adam Glass is, it's been teed up and he's hitting it out. But they were walking around the Wayne Manor, and you saw some photos. Or, well, they weren't photos. They were portraits of various members of the Babb family, and it was mostly the Robins. But I was disappointed because there was only 3 Robins in one of them with Bruce. Like, it was Bruce and then 3 of the boys, and I was like, who's missing? Like, why? I mean, it may have been Damien. I couldn't tell. It was
right. That's what I was about to ask.
But even still, like, as much as Damien is probably my least favorite still, I want him to be in there. Like,
well, here's the thing, though.
He's at least been around long enough to deserve to be in the picture, the portrait.
So maybe it's Jason Todd that's missing.
Maybe, because it was focusing on Jason Todd, so it's possible. I'm just hoping it wasn't Tim, because he seems to be the one that gets the short end of everything these days.
I know.
And I'm like, please don't let it be Tim. I don't want it to be on any of them, but
sure, right.
Do we have an Instagram account? No. Sorry, we are not really social media kind of people. Facebook is about as far as we go.
No, this is about as far as we go.
That's true. That's true. Well, we've got that Facebook page and we barely touch it, but I mean,
I got an email about that today.
If anybody ever messages us, we'll reply.
Right.
So go find Superhero Chat on Facebook, like us, send us a message. We'll talk to you. We'd love to.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot quicker even than Facebook, than YouTube, because Lewis actually can comment on there too.
Yeah. So
he says Instagram is owned by Facebook. Yeah, I don't know, like.
But isn't it just pictures or something?
I think it is.
So yeah, I wouldn't have any use for it.
It's usually used for photo-related promotion. Yeah.
So we're not really. I mean, we put stuff on Facebook. Like last year when we got Action Comics 1000, we checked in or whatever you do on Facebook for that. So.
Yeah. A lot of the people I know use Instagram, and I'm just like, I have like zero desire to get on there. That and Twitter, I'm like, there's this beast that's, as soon as you open that door, it's just like consuming.
Right.
Time consuming. But anyway.
I find that's true of Facebook, and I try to limit my time on there. But yeah, so news and notables. So we got Detective 1000. You've got the awesome Gleason cover coming to you.
Do I have the Superman over here? I think I do.
That'd be good promotion. But
you can buy this online.
The only downside is I really wish it had the rest of the Super family in it, like Supergirl and Superboy.
Yeah. So there's the Gleason cover. I think it's Newberry Comics variant.
Yep.
So pretty awesome. So, and I've said before, Gleason, I feel like his faces aren't my favorite because they all kind of look exactly the same. But everything else is just so spot on that I just, it doesn't really bother me as much. And
right.
I hate to say that because I love Gleason. I really love his artwork. But that one thing is what gets me.
Yeah.
So, but I've been reading the Teen Titans and it's been excellent. It's been excellent. They finally explained the origin of Jen, which is nice. And Robin almost got his first kiss, which was interesting.
Yeah. I don't think he's ready for that.
It seemed like he was ready for it. But Damian Wayne, man, it's that kid. That kid. He. It's nice to see him kind of opening up to somebody.
Yeah.
There was a good exchange between him and Alfred, where Alfred basically says, "You're becoming like your grandfather." He's like, talking.
Ra's al Ghul. I was like, wait a second. What's Thomas Wayne got to do with
Not
this?
that grandfather. He's talking about how they're having a division between him and Bruce right now, and he says, "You know who you're acting like? You're acting like Ra's al Ghul." And I was like, that's got to hit home for Damian, like, So that's been good. I just got this that I started reading and haven't finished yet because I didn't have time. But it's a New Zdarsky Spider-Man book.
Okay, I've heard good things about that.
So it's the life story of the '60s.
Yeah, so it's like through the years or whatever.
Should be interesting. I enjoyed the first few pages I was able to read. So
yeah.
I also picked up his Daredevil because I've heard that was really good.
I was gonna say that was the title that I was trying to think of. I was like, I know he's doing that and Invaders and something
Invaders
else.
Invaders is excellent.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's excellent.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm enjoying. Fantastic Four, and there's a new issue. As far as I understand it, it's coming out Wednesday, so I'll be picking that up alongside my. Was it 3 Detective 1000s that I'm buying for me and the boys?
That's right.
And yeah,
so you did up it and get another one.
That's cool. Yes. So I got 2 of the Bruce Timm with Joker and Batman and Robin on it, and then 1 of the Bernie Wrightson cover from the 70s because it's the only one that has the yellow oval on it.
Yeah.
Other than like, sorry about that.
That's some great.
I just had some books fall on me.
Some great ninja skills.
Well, thankfully I heard it coming and was like, what in the world is all that?
So Dancer said that he heard Shazam was pretty good.
The movie, yes. That was the other thing I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. I saw one of my friends post that there's an actor who's in both Captain Marvel and Shazam. And I was like, so he's in 2 Captain Marvel movies, huh?
Right.
At the same time.
It's the Wizard. He plays Korath in the Star.
He plays Shazam?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And he plays Korath in from the Star Force. He's in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also heard Marvel's doing another big series with Carnage.
Yes, this summer. Yeah, there's Ultimate Carnage or something like that. I saw something about it, but I didn't get a chance to. Sorry, I'm over here trying to keep my stuff from attacking me further. I mean, if you look behind me at the stack of comics that I have here, you can tell that I could easily have a Principal Skinner moment where I get trapped under my my collections. And so I had
his office is pretty packed there.
Yeah. So I had a stack of like books standing up, but they decided they wanted to tip, and so the stuff on top of them decided to come this way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think I've got it pretty well situated at the moment. So. But that's a Simpsons reference with Principal Skinner, in case you guys aren't familiar. I used to be all about The Simpsons, and there was an episode very early on where Bart wished that he would die or something, and what ends up happening is he got trapped in his house under some old newspapers he collected. So
Denzier said he still has a bunch of Maximum Carnage books.
Yes, you know what? That actually is an underrated series. Like, it's a little uneven at times, but I remember when Unlimited Spider-Man came out. where Spider-Man Unlimited #1 came out, which was the first part of that. And me and the guys that I was hanging out at the time with, we were totally into that. Like, the artwork was on point because it was Ron Lim in that book. And, we were like, dude, Carnage is going crazy. And so hopefully they build to that in the movies. I know Carnage sort of made a cameo in the Venom movie, so hopefully they're building up to that.
I still need to see that one too.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so far behind right now. I haven't watched the Spider-Man movie with the animated one. I've been meaning to.
Oh, Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah.
I've been excited about that one too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, and Shazam's about to come out, so it's just like, all right, well,
let's go. We'll just make a day of it.
Yeah. So
find a random movie theater that has all 3 of those movies playing at the same time. You'll be set.
There we go.
I'm super excited for Shazam. I think that movie is going to be excellent.
I'm so excited.
So
I'm very excited.
Anyways, so so otherwise I don't really know. There's a Jonathan Hickman is doing a big X-Men series, but I got to be honest, I don't really care about the X-Men at this moment as far as their comic books go. It's really hard to follow along. Yeah. They've got like Cyclops and Wolverine are scavenging a team of X-Men together in the real world, and then some villain, X-Man, I think it was, who wasn't always a villain, but now he's a villain, has taken the bulk of the X-Men to some alternate reality. And I'm just like, I don't care. Because it just seems to be so like, we're ending this, and here comes another one, and it's like, give me time to breathe. Don't just keep running me through the dishwasher, so to speak, with these storylines, because I don't care. If I can't keep up with it, I'm not going to care. And what else was I going to say? Something about that. Now I've forgotten. Oh, Marvel, slow down with the big storylines. DC, chill out. Give us time to enjoy our characters within the framework of their story instead of altering all of reality every issue. Sorry.
You're fine.
I've been trying to keep up with various series. Like the artwork on Justice League looks great. But I don't know how people are following the story, to be quite honest with you. It just seems to be.
I dropped it a while back.
Thank you. So this is proof of what I'm saying. Like,
it was boring. And then Justice League Odyssey actually has a pretty interesting story. But it doesn't come out but like once every other month or something.
And then it has a smaller cast, which I think actually lends itself to,
And then with the Witching Hour, I got so far behind on Justice League Dark. Because all that came out, I got behind, and I was like, great. What is this trying to open up on my computer?
So, anyway, that's all about all I've got. It's March Madness month or whatever. And over at Comic Book Resources, CBR.com, they've got this really cool tournament going on. They apparently do this or have done this for a number of years, at least 2 other ones prior to this one. And this year they're doing a tournament with Marvel and DC comic book or cartoon shows. Well, I guess it's not just those because they had Wildcats in there and a couple others. But you can go on there and vote for your favorite cartoon shows. And they're doing it. It seemed like they were going to be doing it more frequently and having it done within like a week as opposed to over the course of a month. But I've been partaking in that, and it's been fun. So I'm sure at some point we will do a video on our favorite movies and cartoons and that sort of thing, and I'll probably refer to that just as a point of reference. So putting that in your mind so that as you think about it. So anyway, that's about all I got.
Cool. Well, guess we'll get on to the main event.
All right.
The top 10 most powerful superheroes in comic books. So we have a few parameters. We're not using any villains or anti-heroes. We're focusing strictly heroes. And there's a few exceptions. I guess we were making a qualification that Lewis has introduced to me is the difference between a hero and a force of nature.
Right.
And there's some people whose power is based off of that. So the one that we use the most as an example would be Galactus. You know, the reason we don't use him in a lot of stuff, or really any of the Eternals, is because they're more of a force of nature than they are really a general character, if that makes sense.
Right.
They're just so massively powerful, and sometimes, especially with the way they have written for Galactus, it's as if he doesn't really have control over what he's doing sometimes.
Right.
So, you know, and I guess one of our honorable mentions would be Phoenix. The Phoenix Force it's a force of nature. Right. And, you know, so Jean Grey really isn't as powerful without it. And when it's,
she's still crazy powerful, but,
right.
You know, when we think of her being crazy powerful, it's in relationship to having the Phoenix Force. And there are other people who wield the Phoenix Force. I'm thinking of like Rachel Summers, her daughter, who comes back from the future. But anytime she sort of maxes out, it has disastrous results for her. Like she ends up in a coma or out of the time stream or something crazy like that. So we don't want to include those kind of characters just because, you know.
Right. So like Jean Grey would probably be in the top 10 easily, I think, if we included her because of the Phoenix Force. But because we want to focus on the individual characters, we're not putting her in there.
Right.
So,
when you can destroy an entire solar system by yourself, without trying too hard, might be a little above the pay grade of the rest of the folks on the list.
Right.
And then you have characters like Franklin Richards, who, you know, at one point when he was a child, created a whole alternate reality to save his family. And then, of course, in the current run, he was sort of building universes or whatever. So, too OP to really be.
Yeah. Danzier says, honestly, I was never a fan of Jean Grey's Phoenix stuff. I liked her character without that storyline. I thought it was an interesting take. I thought it was added to the character. But I think the problem is Marvel doesn't know what to do with her without the Phoenix Force, and which is why they kind of reboot the Phoenix Force thing every few years.
Over and over and over and over.
So,
like a phoenix, really.
It's pretty much her defining quality.
Yeah. Which is why it almost would have been better if she stayed dead in some ways.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, I think there's a general problem, not to get off the topic too much, but I think there's a general problem we see in a lot of comic storylines is that they tend to repeat the same stories over and again. One thing like we see a reboot of Raven and her fight with Trigon over and over again.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do with the character. It's like, oh, well, let me rewrite this story, and it's the same one but different. And I'm just like, well, why can't we just do another story? Like, write something new.
Yeah.
So Danzier says he doesn't care for the character. She's less interesting. Honestly, I liked. She was great in the TV show.
Yeah, the cartoon, like the way they streamline that story, it is superb. Yeah.
And you didn't. I mean, as far as I remember, they didn't repeat that story. So there was so much else that she did that made her an interesting character on her own.
Right.
That she didn't really need the Phoenix Force, and she was great in X-Men, the first movie. You know, they didn't touch on the Phoenix Force. They hinted at it a little in the second one, but
right at the end, yeah, where she's holding the dam back or whatever.
But yeah, I really like the character, and it's probably because I'm a big Cyclops fan. But yeah. Anyways, all right. So, were there any other qualifications you want to say? I'd say for Richards, one of the only reasons I would hesitate to include him is I feel like he's not really been well defined yet.
Right.
He's still waiting on a defining story.
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know anything about him until the new Dan Slott run.
Right.
And even still, like, he feels like a character that's uninteresting.
Yeah, so, no, it's been more show than tell. I mean, tell than show.
Unfortunately, I feel like it's going to be that way unless they pull them away from the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Which is sad because they're part of the family.
Right.
But I almost feel like the only way for them to shine is to get them away from the family for a while.
Yeah.
Kind of like any of the Robins or other people in the Bat family. I feel like there's ways to keep them in the family without, putting them back in their parents' shadow. But we'll see. We'll see. There's
the only other potential. Yeah. The only other qualification is we aren't going to really address derivative characters. So, like, no Supergirl if we do Superman, or no, if we use Green Lantern, we're not going to do, and here's this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy and this guy, who all have the same weapon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we're trying to actually pick the most powerful characters. So,
although I do feel like of those we picked the most powerful. And most of the others would probably fall outside of our top 10. So,
right, yeah, no. I'm just saying, like, if someone wants to say, I'm trying to think of a character that's, okay. Well, let's just do the list, and as we go, we'll explain why, certain people don't make it. But real quick, you want to go ahead and do the honorable mentions so we get this out of the way? With let's see, 1, 2, 3. I have 3 honorable mentions that didn't make our top 12.
I should say emphasis on most powerful, not necessarily the strongest.
Right, yeah. So this isn't
a
strength list. We'll do that at some point in the future. This is purely...
and if you disagree with our list, let us know. We're taking too long on this intro. But yeah. We like to talk, so...
Anyway,
bear with us.
Honorable mentions, we'll go ahead and throw these out there so that you guys aren't... You know what? We'll save it. Never mind. Number 12, then. How about that? Let's just get started. Number 12, Martian Manhunter. What power doesn't he have? That's pretty much how you describe the character, right? I think I've heard him described as the Swiss Army knife of superheroes. He's described as more powerful than Superman at various points. And like, that's a legit statement in the sense that he has more powers than Superman. Therefore, when you accumulate it, in some sense, he is more powerful. But
and I feel like, and we talked about this at length, the only reason we didn't rank him higher is because his weakness is so easy to exploit.
So common.
So easy. Like Superman, he can use his lasers and catch something on fire, and Martian Manhunter's out.
Right.
And it's that simple, Most of the people who are above Martian Manhunter can really easily create, or really anybody could generate fire if they knew it was his
Boy Scouts know how to create fire.
It wouldn't take much. And so I think that it's a great aspect of the character for him to overcome.
Right.
So it lends to a lot of stuff, but unfortunately I feel like it's so debilitating that it kind of outweighs how powerful he is in general. So that's why
He
he's
almost
so
didn't-
low on the list. Is
Yeah.
because we felt like the weakness really just kind of took away from his overall power.
And the only reason we're mentioning him is he's one of our favorite characters. So
That's right. Well, I mean, he's you got to mention he's one of the most powerful characters
DC
in the
character,
Justice League.
Yeah.
And in DC,
Yeah.
he can take Superman. I mean, it would be a good fight.
yeah,
And I feel like Superman would usually win, but Martian Manhunter could beat him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, with that weakness, it would be a lot easier for him to lose because
Right.
of that. Anyways,
so number 11, or did you want me to say more?
11's fine.
All right. So we just combined Dr. Fate and Dr. Strange here on this list. And no, it's not Dr. Strange Fate from the Amalgam universe. Shout out to when DC and Marvel got along better
Because we were all thinking about that.
25 years ago. Anyway, two of the most powerful magic users in both universes. Like when you're known as the Sorcerer Supreme or one of the Lord of Order's top guys or whatever, yeah, you deserve to be on a list like this. And I know that Dr. Fate actually has additional powers, like he's got super strength and things like that alongside his magical abilities. And let's just be honest, Dr. Fate has one of the coolest superhero costumes of all time.
That's true. Well, I love the story, like some of the stories around him where people sacrifice their own lives for the mask.
Yeah.
And a lot of drama goes into that. I think it's a really, really well-designed character. I'd put him further up on the list, except for the fact that we thought he was real close to breaching our line of force of nature.
Right, yeah, he's knocking on that door. Some folks would argue he's on the other side, but we've heard it both ways. So
that's why he's not in our top 10, but we had to mention him.
That's right. That's right. So,
but he's also powerless without a specific person carrying the helmet.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it kind of goes both ways.
DC, make me a Dr. Fate movie as good as the Wonder Woman, Aquaman, or, from what I'm hearing, Shazam movie you've made, because that's a no-brainer.
Well, the Doctor Strange movie was so great.
Yeah.
I mean, Dr. Fate wouldn't be too terribly different.
No, and they could totally go more old school, like Mummy kind of movie, where he's fighting these. You
know what I was going to say? They should do a Hawkman movie, and then the sequel introduce Dr. Fate.
Oh, yes, and the Justice Society.
There you go. And then the third one, you bring in Adam, and boom,
Justice League, right?
Justice League International, right there.
That's right. Seamless transition.
Then you bring Martian Manhunter, the guy who should have been in the first Justice League.
Not
all right, we've got a few from Dan's here. Strange would be fairly high up there in my books, and he's still waiting for another sequel. It's probably coming. I mean, you don't get Benedict Cumberbatch without making sequels for it.
The guy who played Wong has said that they're working on that. So
he was great in Avengers. I loved his part in it. He was great. Him and Tony Stark together was brilliant.
I liked it when it was just him and Bruce Banner too, where he's at the very end. He's like, "I'm going to protect the Sanctum Sanctorum."
But anyways, all right.
So now we're in the top 10. We just had to do that because it's our list and that's what we do. But at number 10, Adam Warlock. Counter-Earth Jesus. 1960s, 70s. He was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby in the Fantastic Four was his first appearance, but Jim Starlin really gave him life as a character. Originally, he was just him. That was what they called him, but then he became known as Adam, and then eventually Adam Warlock. mega powerful. Each time he dies, apparently he comes back more powerful, which I did not know. So, I found that out over the weekend because I told you I'd look into it. You were pushing heavy for this guy. He has a really cool look with the red and the black and the gold skin and everything. So I hate they haven't done more with him in the Marvel movies, but maybe that'll come in time.
Well, I just felt like anybody who could hold the Infinity Gauntlet, deserved to be.
This is true.
On a powerful list.
Yeah, and he has a symbiotic relationship with the Soul Gem. So, when you have that kind of relationship with one of the Infinity Stones, yeah, you got to make the list, right?
Says Aquaman can take a mantle laser to his bare chest, apparently. Yeah, I will say I argued to put Aquaman on the list, and Lewis, who ironically is the Aquaman fan of the group, said no. And the only reason for that was because of the trident.
Right. So, in 80 years worth of, or nearly 80 years worth of comics, Aquaman hasn't been that powerful, but with the Jeff Johns stuff and the New 52 and then Rebirth and now the movie or whatever, they have certainly powered him up, and I'm not opposed to that because he is one of my favorite characters. I mean, go back and watch our top DC characters. He's very high up on my list, and I love that movie. Go watch the spoilers for that we talked about because it ranks very highly in my favorite comic book movies. So
I was looking, it killed at the box office.
Do what?
It killed at the box office.
Yeah, it did a great job.
It got $1.14 billion.
Yeah.
That's just crazy. It beat all the other DCEU movies.
Yeah.
Overall. Now, Wonder Woman still beat it domestically, but
right.
It just crushed everything.
And I think Shazam is going to be another one that
I hope
blows up at the box office. Yeah,
it deserves it. Captain Marvel is one of the best, and it's a kids movie, so it's like it. I mean, he was beating everybody in the 40s, so why shouldn't he do it again? I was watching Comic Trip's video that he put out this week on Captain Marvel, and yeah. Anyways.
So yeah, Warlock. I'm looking forward to what they do with him in the MCU.
If they do anything with him. Yeah,
I feel like they should. But I mean, I guess I understand why they wouldn't. It is a mite odd. The savior of the Counter Earth thing.
I was shocked that they didn't put him in Infinity War. I was like, seriously? I feel like
I was shocked.
Because they've led up to him so much.
Right. Like they did hint at him at the end of Guardians too, so I'm really surprised they didn't do more with him.
They even called him Adam.
Right.
I was like, what are you doing? Like, you even call his name out, and then suddenly you're not even going to use the character? Like, come on now. Instead, they're using Carol Danvers. I'm like, yeah, this is dumb. You pick one of the most disliked characters in comics, and instead of one that's been around for a long time, and I don't know if anybody knows about him, but you've already introduced him.
Here's the philosophy behind that. So with these movies, because they've been so well received, there does become something of a herd mentality. And so, even if the character is opposing your worldview or things of that nature, like if you were just adamantly opposed to what they're about, you could still find yourself wanting to go and see the movie. You know what I mean? And so Marvel is like, well, we've got so much street cred with these folks. We'll just introduce this character and she'll become the next big thing. And that's what's happening, right? Yeah. She's blowing up. And, I mean, it's understandable. It's an interesting character. to some degree, and it's not my cup of tea, but obviously it's resonating with the fan base anyway. So,
Yeah.
I think if the movies were only attended by comic book fans, things might be different. I don't know, but there's a lot invested. You've got Coulson, you've got Fury, you've got the Kree characters that you've already seen, like Ronan and Korath and a few others. So like folks are like, I'm there, and she is a powerful character. So we'll see if she makes our list.
Danzier said he heard Marvel bought a lot of their own tickets. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen any evidence for that. So I mean,
all the evidence I've seen seems to indicate that the movie is good. My father-in-law has seen it. He liked it a lot. My brother-in-law went with him and saw it. They saw it in 3D and they said it was excellent. So
yeah, I had a couple people who said they loved it, and I've heard a couple people who said it was boring and dry.
Really?
So,
I mean, I went on Wikipedia and read about like the plot of the movie, and it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So I can totally, and there are great actors in it, like Jude Law. I loved him in the Sherlock movies with Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna go see it.
Actors.
I'm gonna go see it soon. I keep saying that, but anyways, all right. So Adam Warlock. I really had hoped that they would get him in Infinity War, because that really is his story.
Yeah,
that's his.
Every bit as much as Thanos' story.
That's what he's known for. Like, what else is he known for except for the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Gems? Nothing, really.
Well, I mean, just the Counter-Earth Jesus stuff that I was telling you about.
So, right.
So.
If you're an encyclopedia of comics, you know all the stories, but for us normies, it's the Infinity Gauntlet, and that's really the only time you would want to use the character for a movie.
That's true.
I don't think he could hold his own film. Probably. Right. So I feel like that's a wasted opportunity that they had there. Oh well.
Yeah. So anyways, Marvel, fix that. Number nine. Well, since we were talking about Captain Marvel just a minute ago, her biggest competition from DC, Wonder Woman.
That's right.
And really, shouldn't it be the other way since Wonder Woman came out first?
That's right. Well, it is.
Yeah.
It is the other way.
Yeah, so
I feel like every other female character is trying to live up to Wonder Woman.
Yeah. You say that, it reminds me of that Powerpuff Girl commercial that they did for Cartoon Network at one point, or maybe it was Boomerang, but it was like so if you're familiar with the Powerpuff Girls, they're children or whatever,
right,
and
yeah, I've seen them.
Yeah, there's the joke that like
sugar and spice and everything nice.
Well, no. I just mean they had like a crossover commercial for Cartoon Network, and they're like, "We hope to be as well developed as you are one day."
Huh.
I just thought it was funny. Because I mean, ultimately, like you just said, most of the female characters are trying to live up to the standard of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And as popular as Captain Marvel seems to be, I still don't think, at least as far as the reach goes, she'll quite ever reach Wonder Woman level.
Well,
she might. I could be wrong, but
I think to have a lasting impact, you've got to have not only a good movie but good comic books.
Right.
So, and she doesn't. So, right. And honestly, the ratings, the viewer ratings for Captain Marvel are abysmal.
Really?
There's a lot of people who didn't like it.
Okay.
I think it was like 30% or something. It's pretty low.
Well, I hadn't checked it recently, so
yeah.
I mean, it was all in the news that folks were excited about it.
I don't think it's Last Jedi territory, but because that was awful. Right. I'm sure this will be a much better movie than The Last Jedi, which is sad.
Yeah.
Last Jedi had so much going for it. It had Luke Skywalker in it. Anyways, I'm not
Wonder
bitter.
Woman. She's
I'm not bitter
super
at all.
strong, super fast. She's got warrior training. She's got that experience. She's got the backing of the gods, the mythological gods. So
in some versions, she is a god, or at least a demigod.
Right.
So and she's been trained as an Amazon warrior for her entire life, which is really the main reason we put her in the top 10, because I feel like for most of these characters, like, she could take a lot of people down.
Right.
And because she's just so used to fighting monsters and creatures and gods, and so even though she might maybe not be as strong, might not rank as high on the strength test, she's a powerful lady, especially in the movie. In the movie, they made her even more powerful, I think.
Yeah, so, they did.
But she definitely deserves to be at the top. And so, really well developed character, and just her warrior past really helps her. I love that movie. It's so good with her.
Dude, when she climbs out of that trench, you're just like, let's go, right? Like,
yeah,
it was so good.
It was. I got the joy, if you're new here, I got the joy of introducing Lewis to the Wonder Woman movie.
And by that, he just means we sat down and watched it together.
Before I moved, I forced him to watch it with me. And he willingly.
Well, that or pack his socks up, right?
That's all right. So.
But it was excellent. Yeah. With that, if you haven't seen that, please go watch it. It's worth the time. It is easily one of the best DC movies of all time.
Yeah.
Even with the flaws that we've talked about in other videos, it's still an amazing movie.
If you'd like to see more of that, go check out our other videos where we talk more in depth about them. We talk about the Aquaman movie. We've got a bunch of stuff where we talk about those movies. So
yeah.
All right.
Number 8.
This is the Hulk.
I almost feel like we should have put him at 6 just because of the 6th Hulk. But yeah, it's number 8.
6 Hulk.
It's the Hulk. So here we're really thinking any of them, but especially like the Worldbreaker Hulk from World War Hulk. I mean, dude's traveling on the outside of a spaceship through space. He takes out Black Bolt of the Inhumans. He takes out Tony Stark in his new Hulkbuster armor. He punks him, basically.
I'm sorry. I can't believe that I forgot about 6th Hulk. Man, I'm sad about that.
Oh no, man.
I'm glad you reminded me. It brings joy to my heart.
It just dawned on me as I said number 8, and I'm like, oh, what an opportunity we missed.
That's right.
But yeah, no. So Hulk's thing has always been, the madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets. So, like, the longer he fights, the worse it's going to go for whoever he's fighting. That's just his deal. So, he has to be up there.
Danzier, we'll talk about that in a minute, so just keep watching.
He can take a beating and keep on, fighting back. So,
yeah. We talked about a Hulk and Wonder Woman fight to figure out who should be higher. And the only reason we came down on Hulk is because we figured that if he got mad enough, which I feel like if she were fighting him in a battle, he probably would get madder. Although I think that Wonder Woman would look through the monster to the man and to calm him down.
Right.
And so I think that's how she would probably approach it. But assuming that didn't work and they had to fight full out, she could hold her own, I think, and even possibly beat him if she did it quickly. but the longer the battle went on, the more powerful he'd probably become, and the more tired she would be. And so we felt like overall Hulk would probably win in a long fight, and just because he's so much stronger, and he's invulnerable, and she's not. And so, she's going to get tired a lot quicker than he's going to. So that's our thoughts. I feel like she could take him still. But she's going to have to be very precise about how she does it. Very tactical about taking him out. Really just like anybody else that fights him. So, but the only reason he's lower on the list is because his main power is strength.
Yeah, it's just the physical. I mean, he does have a brain, obviously, with Banner, but it's usually cut off.
When you have Smart Hulk, he'd be even more dangerous, but he wouldn't be as powerful per se. He'd just be a lot more difficult. So a lot of these characters aren't necessarily stronger than him, or maybe even be able to beat him, but they are more powerful, if that makes sense.
Right.
So that's why he's this low on the list, just to come in. We're planning on doing another video soon about
strength characters.
About strength characters. Danzier says she could trap him somehow and calm him. I don't think she would trap him. I think if she tried to trap him, that would make him mad.
Yeah, it would. It would.
So, he says she could use her empathy to appeal to him. Yeah, I mean, she has a calming personality. She's really the glue that holds the Justice League together.
And the lasso of truth. So.
That's true.
It's supposed to be unbreakable.
That's right. So I feel like in a similar way you see Natasha Romanoff calm him down in Avengers 2.
The sun is getting low or something, right?
I feel like Wonder Woman would do something similar to reach him. So because his strength comes from his anger, and so her tactic would be to try to calm him down.
Right.
And she has a very calming attitude about her, and that's one thing I like about the character. She's very very good at bridging the gap between people and calming people down, which is great for the Justice League. When you have people like Guy Gardner and all them running around. But
in the late 90s, early 2000s, she was like an ambassador for peace for Themyscira, so within the United Nations, like she was an actual diplomat. So I thought that was an excellent use of the character, and quite possibly something they may explore in the movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's going to be in the 80s, and that was the Cold War, so who knows? Good chance, DC. All right.
Number 7.
It's Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Shazam.
The first Captain Marvel. And
right. The real
so
Captain
I just want
Marvel.
to say real quick, I know that, Zachary Levi and all the folks behind that movie have explained, and Jeff Johns has gone on record as saying, we're done with that. You guys can have it. We'll just call him Shazam. I get that. But for me, when I first heard about the character, I called him Shazam. And then I realized, I'm being stupid. That's not his name. That's what he says to transform into Captain Marvel. And I learned, I, as a child, figured it out. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, I understand why there are no Captain Marvel comics with the DC logo and this guy in it. I get it. But just understand, folks, I'm not trying to be divisive like some folks who, like, not my Captain Marvel or whatever in regard to Brie Larson's movie. I'm not doing that. I'm not trying to be divisive. I'm just saying this guy has been Captain Marvel for 60, 80 years or whatever before it became a problem. And so I'm that's just what I call him. So bear with me as I try to unlearn how I figured it all out.
Well, I'm still always going to call him Captain Marvel because the problem is the name of the wizard is Shazam.
Right.
He says the name of the wizard to get his power. He doesn't say his own name. His name is Captain Marvel, who is infused with the power of Shazam.
Right.
So, logically, it doesn't make sense for him to be called Shazam. Although I'm not opposed to having a book title named Shazam. It makes sense.
Right.
It's his
so that's what they called it in the 90s, the power of Shazam. That was the comic book.
So, you know, but he's Captain Marvel. You know, and I understand all the legal stuff. They let that
lapse.
And I think that was before DC even bought the rights to it. So
no. So DC had squashed Fawcett from making books, and then they licensed the character to DC, and DC let it lapse. Instead of like buying it up and taking it, they let it lapse, and then Marvel snatched it up, and then it became this whole big thing.
It was a long time before they ever thought they'd do anything with the character. I don't even think they had intention to at first. So.
Right, they were just stopping him from making money for somebody else.
But anyways, Captain Marvel is basically Superman. I mean, he's kind of designed off the character. That was kind of the whole point of the lawsuit that DC filed against him.
They said he was derivative.
And I feel like he had enough changes that they probably would have eventually lost. And Fawcett would have probably won because it's got a different person, different source of power. He's magical. Just because he's strong, like Superman, doesn't make him Superman.
Right.
So, you know, there's a difference between derivative and, infringement of copyright. So,
Fawcett just couldn't afford to keep the fight going.
Yeah, well, and I think, because I was watching the Comic Tropes video, he was saying that in the late 40s, early 50s, superheroes were kind of going out of style.
Oh, right, in the 50s especially.
People were kind of leaning more toward the romance and horror books and stuff like that, and so comic books kind of went on a dip in sales. But apparently in the 40s, he was selling like 1 million copies.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
Which is crazy.
Especially with the paper shortage.
Because, right. Well, I think Batman is one of the top sellers these days, and it's like 60 or 70,000.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you might sell 120,000 of the book.
So it's like, it's a tenth of what was being sold in the 40s.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyways, so Captain Marvel ranks a little bit lower. He's got a lot of magic powers. He's got the strength basically of Superman, even though it's not.
It's the strength of Hercules.
That's right.
The stamina of Atlas.
Right.
The courage of Achilles. The power of Zeus. The speed of Mercury. And the wisdom of Solomon. And I did that out of order.
I was like, Shazam doesn't end on an S.
Yeah. So the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles, and then the speed of Mercury.
So I love Captain Marvel. He's one of my favorite characters. He really has an aspect of like a childhood dream of being Superman, and so he's every kid's dream that you would suddenly find a wizard who endues you with the power of Superman, basically, and you become a superhero like Superman. So,
Captain Sparkle Fingers.
Right. So, but yeah. So we've got a few here. Denzer said he was confused. He thought about Captain Marvel too. He says that he's Superman with a different weakness, also human. That's fair. He is human. He says he can't wait to see Batman fight Shredder. Not sure what that has to do with anything, but there are 2 miniseries where the Bat Family and Batman team up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And if you haven't, I think
there's a new one coming out.
They're really good.
No, they're doing an animated movie of it.
I
think there's an animated movie.
Both of them are really good, so check that out. Anyways, so Captain Marvel, he's a very powerful guy. He's got all the magic.
So he ends up actually having less weaknesses than Superman.
Yeah, because he doesn't have like the obvious kryptonite that he has, and honestly, like most of I think the early comics, his weakness was as a kid, and so they would like find these various creative ways of like keeping him from being able to say Shazam.
That's right. So the bad guy would cover his mouth, or
that was his weakness.
Right.
I thought that was funny.
So
good
reading though, because you're like, okay, how's he gonna get out of this one?
Yeah, he was saying that it's in public domain now, so you should be able to look it up and read it.
Oh yeah, no, there are a number of longer stories that are on public domain. I have a couple saved in my bookmarks to go back and read through, and then I bought the greatest Shazam stories ever told for like $3 at Ollie's back when I got that big haul. So,
anyway, so that's number 7. Number 6. Six Hulk.
It's not Six Hulk, but it is a green character. Green Lantern.
Hal Jordan.
By that we mean Hal Jordan,
to be specific. So, quick summary of why we didn't choose the others. Hal Jordan is the ultimate Green Lantern. He's DC's most willful character. He's got the most willpower in that. And I mean, some people would say he has less than Batman, but Batman doesn't use the ring, so it doesn't matter either way.
That's right.
Batman says
he has the most powerful weapon in the universe,
and he uses it really well. He was able to forge his own ring in Rebirth, which was awesome. And so to be able to do that, you got to be massively powerful, just massively powerful. The only reason we didn't include Kyle Rayner is because I said Kyle Rayner White Lantern should be at least top 20, if not top 10. But the problem is Kyle Rayner's still young, and he hasn't had the White Lantern ring that long. And they just got rid of it, which is terrible. And I haven't really done anything with the character since, so it's just like, what? Why did you do this?
Well, over in Justice League, John Stewart's the White Lantern now.
But I think
from the future.
I think what they were trying to do was not have this crazy powerful guy floating around the universe somewhere when they were doing the Doomsday Clock thing. But then they never really did the Doomsday Clock thing.
Well, that's not on time anyway.
Right. So they got rid of it, and then who would have known 2 years later is when we're possibly getting the conclusion of all that. So, anyways, I'm not bitter.
We'll see. I'm not holding my breath. That'd be good.
But that's why we don't have Kyle Rayner on here. He's a lot younger, inexperienced compared to Hal Jordan, and Hal Jordan is just so powerful that he's got to be on the top.
Yeah, he's got the most powerful weapon in the universe. And when you think about the villains that he's fought, like Sinestro, and the folks he's trained with and worked alongside of, he's easily able to incorporate all of those folks' best fighting techniques and things like that to move him up the list, as it were. He's got the experience. He's in most of the normal stuff. I mean, I guess modern comics might look at it differently, but he's historically one of the older ones, like a couple years older than Superman or Batman or whoever. And he brings his own unique experience to the table. Couple that with his will and his powering, and it's money match right there. So,
well, if you read the Emerald Twilight,
yeah,
he fights the entire Green Lantern Corps and beats them
by himself. Yeah,
including Kilowog and Sinestro.
Yeah,
and crazy.
Yeah, so that's an amazing story, and it breaks your heart when he finally beats Sinestro. You're like, dude, how am I feeling this way about this scenario? Great story if you guys are looking for a good random Green Lantern story, or if you're into Kyle. That's his humble beginnings.
Well, I like the ending where he finds out that it was all for naught because it ends up just being an illusion.
Right.
So like all this work for an illusion of what was and not the actual thing.
Yeah.
Pretty good story. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that, but yeah.
Still worth reading.
It's still worth reading and
figure out exactly what Jonathan means.
Yeah. All right.
Number 5. We're in the top 5. Woo! And this guy with a bullet.
Yeah, I am terrible.
Or is it a mallet? Or a laser blast?
I was telling Danzier, I'm terrible at spoilers. Lewis is always catching me there. I talk freely. I will not be stopped. Held back.
Fandom means nothing to him.
Well, I mean, there's some spoilers, like Episode 5 of Star Wars that, I'll respect. And some, like, I'm just so excited about, I gotta tell. So,
to be fair, the book we're talking about is 25 plus years old.
Right.
So
if you haven't read it by now and you're like I was last year, then there's something wrong. There was something wrong with me not having read it. I'm sorry, but go read it because it's awesome. They capture it in the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern trade that came out a year or two ago. Really good. Number 5.
Number 5, Wally West, the Flash. What can be said about him? Oh yeah, didn't you make a whole video about this topic?
I did. Well, we did because we.
Well, no. I think you made a whole video about why he's the most powerful Justice League member.
Probably.
Yeah, and it centered on the argument that he can move so fast that when he hits you, it's like. He's utilizing. I forget exactly what it's called, but Barry has something similar. But
it was that
connected to the Speed Force. So
it was that one episode of Justice League that really convinced me when they're fighting Brainiac, Lex Luthor, and even Superman's hardest punches isn't going through it. But then Wally goes faster than the speed of light and punches it, and it just starts chipping it away. I'm like. Dude, if that thing hit Superman, like he'd be gone.
Right. Well, and he's one of the. When I say he's one of, I mean he really is the only person who's gone into the Speed Force and come back without help. Like, because he goes in the Speed Force and he can jump himself out at some other point in time. Now he can't exactly just go back and forth like it were a door. But he's had more success with that than any other character. And so when you couple Wally has all these really neat abilities. Like Barry can vibrate through things. Wally can't do that. Because when he does that, he actually leaves a charge behind that causes it to explode. So if he ran through, say, like the Incredible Hulk, right? The Hulk would then explode because he leaves that residue, energy residue behind. He can also lend speed to others. So he literally, if someone were flying with him and he added, lent them speed, he could cause them to fly so fast that they shoot off of the Earth, like off into space. Admittedly, we have a lot of heavy hitters here, so it's not like all of them would be necessarily affected by that. Yeah. But I think a few of them would.
It would be funny if Wally lent Clark some speed for a race.
Yeah,
that'd be funny. Here, let me help you out. Try to keep up with me.
Now, I know this will sound strange. I could be wrong, but he may also be able to steal speed. I can't remember though. But he can lend speed. There's like this one really cool issue where he takes Linda running with him.
Huh.
So she's just like jogging like she normally would, but then he lends her speed so that she can keep up with him or whatever. It's fun. It's like this little neat moment at the end of the issue because she feels so out of touch with with all that he is and does because he's a hero and she's just a normal human or whatever.
Right.
But it's a really cool moment. But yeah, Wally. I mean,
so the question is,
my book, so.
if he's so powerful that we're talking, why is he so low?
Why is he so low? Well, I guess you'll notice as we go up the list, the power levels of these other characters. Most of them can survive in space unaided. Wally cannot, so he is still human in that regard. But again, he's connected to the Speed Force in such a way that he can actually, like make a costume out of Speed Force matter, whatever that is. I find that to be very powerful.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's got a lot of powers, but it still wouldn't take, like, if you could keep up with him even a small amount, he'd probably go down pretty quickly.
Right.
He's got some weaknesses with the mind, if you can get into his mind.
That's right. Yep.
I mean, he moves so quickly, it'd be hard to do that, but somebody talented could probably do so. Superman gets a good punch or two on him, and he's probably down for the count.
Right.
And so he has to be careful, because if he's not, he's not super strong.
He's not invulnerable.
He's just super powerful. And so that's kind of why he's a little bit lower. He's got some weaknesses. Like, I'd say he's a lot more powerful than Martian Manhunter is, which is why Martian Manhunter is a little bit lower. But Wally's only got a few things that would really help him overpower somebody.
Yeah.
Now, he's got a lot of that kinetic energy and stuff that can really help him out. But it's still limited in a fight, I guess. But I do feel like he's one of the few people who could pretty easily take out anybody above him on the list.
Sure.
If he might not win as many times as they do, but he could, which is a good person to have, somebody who can keep up with the best. So that's why I put him a little bit lower.
So before we go any further, I'll just go ahead and reveal that our list ultimately contains at least the top 10, 6 DC characters and 4 Marvel characters. And considering how much we love DC characters, that's really impressive. I didn't realize what the division was exactly. And so I just did a quick count while he was talking because I was interested. So we're now down to the last 4 characters on our list, and we'll do some honorable mentions somewhere in here. But before I get to number 4, I just want to ask you a quick question. Did Dan Zier ask about this character earlier in reference to the Hulk? Because you said we'll get to that.
I don't think so. No, I was talking about Captain Marvel versus Captain Marvel.
Okay. Sorry. All right. So number 4 is, ironically, and I say ironically just because it rhymes, Thor is number 4.
Hulk. No, I mean Thor.
Thor. Let's be honest. He's crazy durable. He's got years of warrior experience. He's got that nifty hammer that allows him to be pulled into the air. It's not true flying, but whatever you want to call it. It can open portals, at least in the comics.
Dan Zier says Beta Ray Bill.
Except he comes from a less warrior culture, so Thor gets the nod there. Yeah. Plus, he's got that one power. What's that one power that I haven't mentioned? Something about, oh, yeah, he's the god of lightning, right? So, I mean...
Yeah, Beta Ray Bill's not a god. He's an alien.
That's true.
Thor's a god.
Right.
So he's in another level. I mean, I love Beta Ray Bill even more than I love Thor. I think he's more interesting, but, what a design for a character, too. But, Thor, I think, is more powerful overall.
Yeah. But anyway, so the list I just gave you is why he's ranked so high. And let me just go back and tell you something. So Stan Lee, when he created Thor, and by that I don't mean he created him, because obviously Thor is a mythological character in the Nordic mythology and stuff, but he brought him in and he created him based on the idea that he wanted a character who was more powerful than the Hulk. And he literally said, well, the only way we get more powerful than the Hulk is if we create a god. And so that's what he did. He created the basic sort of stuff that we know about Thor. And so with Marvel characters, he kind of has to be high on the list.
And I'd have a similar argument for him with Wonder Woman. I feel like Thor's probably not, or is definitely not as strong as Hulk, but he's more powerful. And so it's strength versus power in that.
Well, so Thor and Hulk have sort of the same baseline strength, but the longer Hulk fights, the stronger Hulk gets, which you see evidenced really well in the Thor versus Hulk movie, where Hulk basically pulps Thor, and you're like, dang, that's bad. Like, I feel bad for you, dude.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some good scenes in the first Avenger movie. You can kind of see how they...
Oh, no. So that's great. And that one tends toward more... I mean, other than the punch where he's standing beside him, that tends to be more even. But in the animated movie Hulk versus Thor, like, he looks like he's beating Thor to death, and Thor would die if he weren't an immortal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I don't think either of them...
you're immortal, because you're going to want to feel like you had died, the beating you're taking.
Right.
I mean, it's rough to watch. Like, I just remember watching it, I'm like,
well, and Thor...
it's like a train wreck.
I don't think either of them were really trying their hardest in Avengers either. So
True that.
Thor was trying to calm him down, not rile him up, and Hulk was only so angry. I mean, he could still fit in the plane. So
well, and we got to see a good battle between them in the arena too.
Yeah, that was fun. So we see how much more powerful there. That was a great scene.
Yeah. That was worth watching.
He's a friend from work. Anyways, so I just wanted to explain why we put him higher, because he's much more powerful, even though he might not be as strong. So physical strength can only get you so far when you're dealing with very powerful characters.
Yeah. All right.
So you got any more on Thor?
Great character. Thoroughly loved. Like, I loved him even in the stupid Incredible Hulk movie from the 90s, the old TV show.
Yeah.
Where he was played by some dude who otherwise was a comic actor. I think his probably his biggest movie was the Little John character from Robin Hood Men in Tights. Otherwise, but he played Thor in this TV movie for the Incredible Hulk series, and I remember renting it from the video store. We used to have this place you would go to rent videos from, and you get to look at the covers and turn it over. And DVDs back then weren't DVDs; they were these big fat things called cassette.
I feel like most of our viewers are old enough to know what a VCR is. Silly. I could be wrong. If you've never had a VCR, let us know, because I'm curious.
Yeah. Anyways. It was amazing because it was just like cheesy enough that I loved it as a kid, and the look of Thor is awesome with the long hair, the giant hammer, the red cape.
So Dan said VHS is the tape, VHR is the player.
VCR.
Sorry, that's what I meant. I said it right the first time, but
bunch of children here.
He says Ragnarok was awesome. I had the best Hulk. And Hulk and Ragnarok was done right.
done better, maybe.
So here's my problem with the Hulk, and I don't think we really got it in any of the Marvel movies yet, and that's that they haven't really gotten a good balance of Hulk and Bruce Banner. The first Avengers did pretty well, and the second Avengers did all right, but we've kind of gotten a back and forth with all the others. So you had Ragnarok, which was all the Hulk pretty much, and then you had Infinity War, which is pretty much all Bruce Banner, and I can kind of see what they're going for. But in general, I feel like my favorite part of the Hulk character is the inner war inside, where it's got a very, I mean, it was based off of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it's got this like evil that's inside of him that he's addicted to, but he can't. He's trying
to harness it for good.
He tries to harness it for good. He doesn't want to let it loose because he knows it'll destroy things and hurt people, kill people. But he can't not fight for it because it's got like a very evil scientist kind of thing going on. And I love the character. I think it's a really great, but a lot of the movies don't really get that. So I just, whatever. And especially the cartoons, all you ever see is the Hulk. And I'm like, that's a weak character. Like, you could do that with any character. And not the same. What makes the Hulk special is the inner dialogue between Banner and the Hulk. And they've done a little bit of that, I think, in the movies. I wish they would do a little bit more. Who wants a Mark Ruffalo Hulk movie? Let's go. That'd be awesome.
This guy right here. I thought Ruffalo's Banner in the first Avengers movie was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
He has like this manic tension where he's like trying to stay calm, but you're like, dude, you're making me nervous. And I love that about the character. But the last thing I'll say about Thor, when I was a kid, my sister was into this movie called Adventures in Babysitting. And Vincent D'Onofrio, the guy who played Kingpin in the Daredevil Netflix series, he played like this mechanic guy or whatever. And one of the child characters was totally into Thor. And she saw him working on a car or whatever with a hammer, and she thought he was Thor. And it was great. And so, I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio, he's like 6 foot, something, and he's a big dude, as you guys undoubtedly saw from his Kingpin. And so, yeah, I was sold on the character before I really even knew a whole lot about Thor. And so, yeah.
All right, moving on.
Number 3, Captain Atom.
Captain Atom.
And you're like, Captain Atom? Who's Captain Atom? He's the reason that Dr. Manhattan exists. So Captain Atom is this mega powerful character historically. He got bonded with some fancy kind of metal, and he has like nuclear powers, radiation, all that jazz. And so when Watchmen was being done originally, it was to incorporate characters like Blue Beetle, who became Owlman, Rorschach, who was originally the Question, Captain Atom, who became Dr. Manhattan, Ozymandias, the bad guy, he was Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. The comedian was the Peacemaker. Silk Spectre was somebody I forget at the moment. Anyway, I won't sit here and bore you with all that. But ultimately, Dr. Manhattan was Captain Atom gone wrong, so to speak. And we got a little bit of that in the DC universe when they were looking to do Captain Atom as Monarch, and then they changed their minds. And then they did it after Infinite Crisis. And he was like taking on a whole planet of Superman at one point in that series. which I didn't follow terribly closely. So if I'm wrong about all that, blame DC because it was terrible. But I'm just saying, like, dude is mega powerful. A good example of his like OP nature is when he fights Superman on the Justice League cartoon show. Like, he's hitting Superman with red solar radiation. He's weakening Superman as he's beating him down, and he's like asking Superman to stop fighting him so that he doesn't kill him.
That's one of the best episodes in the series, I think.
Yeah.
I instantly love the character in that episode where you have him torn because he's got two sources of allegiance.
Yeah.
And he's having to choose between them. And he ends up siding against his friends because he chose the military first. And man, it's such a good story.
Yes.
Such a good story. And then when spoiler alert, I'll get it in there. When Superman wins, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. So Captain Atom is one of my favorite characters, and he's underutilized in DC. That's all I'm going to say. Because I feel like they could go either way. Have him be this big-time hero or big-time villain, but they don't know what they want to do with him. And so oftentimes he gets overlooked. But there was an excellent article or letter written into the Wizard magazine 30 years ago, 20 years ago, where somebody explained why Captain Marvel ultimately would be the most powerful DC hero. And I thought the logic of the argument was good. I wish I could repeat it verbatim for you now, but I don't have that particular issue sitting right out. But I do remember it was convincing, and so I bought into it. I've since amended my argument, as you guys will see, but obviously I think very highly of the character and his power set. So that's really all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I think the character is very interesting.
Yeah,
I really like the dual allegiance that he's got going on. Honestly, powers don't really interest me as much as interesting stories. Because there's some great characters with really great powers, but are terribly written. Right. And then there's some that have kind of weird and useless powers, but they're written so well. It's just like, this character's awesome. And so I usually lean more toward having good storylines, and that cartoon was just amazing. I hate that they got rid of it or they canceled it, but
yeah.
Yep, that's about the extent of my knowledge. He'd do really well on any kind of Justice League International or Justice Society. He'd do really well on a team book.
Yeah, I agree. Like he did really well in Justice League Europe, which became Justice League International.
I feel like he would have. I think that he has the same problem that Superman does. People don't know what to do with the really super strong character, and I feel like he's got a lot of potential. There's a lot of good stories you could write with him.
Yeah.
Danzier says number one is Sleepwalker.
Not quite, Danzier. So we've only got 2 left, so we'll plug our honorable mentions here. Honorable mention number 1 is Quasar. He originally was on our top 10 until I bumped him in favor of Adam Warlock. He possesses the quantum bands, which are one of the most powerful weapons in the Marvel Universe. You guys probably are familiar somewhat with the Nega bands. Captain Marvel, the original Marvel, he wore those. They're a derivative of the quantum band, and so Marvel was created to fight. Was a foil for Thanos for a while, even when he had the cosmic cube. And
that's where Carol Danvers gets her powers, from those Nega bands.
Yeah.
Which are...
Well, no, it's some sort of Kree device. But she has the Nega bands now in the comics, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And so...
so that would put her a little bit lower than Quasar.
Right, because hers is a derivative of his power.
So we feel like she'd probably definitely fit in the top 20.
Right.
But because of the
stealing my thunder here.
power, sorry.
No, you're good. Another honorable mention, Captain Marvel.
I didn't know your list of honorable mentions.
I've only got 3. She's number 2. And honestly, she's more powerful as Binary when she had her alien powers in the X-Men series with the Starjammers than she is as Captain Marvel. She was pulling some white hole radiation. So the white hole is sort of like the opposite of a black hole, obviously. But it's theoretical. It's not something we can actually define. So it's a little ill-defined, but she was crazy OP there. And so she's had moments where she's approached that level as Captain Marvel. But ultimately, her strength levels are lower. Her speeds are lower than some of these other characters, like, say, Thor strength-wise, Hulk strength-wise, or Warlock speed-wise, or something like that. And so that's why she didn't make the top 10. Nothing personal, Captain. We just, felt like they were more deserving characters. Did you want to say anything about her real quick?
I think I already did.
Okay. Last character I want to mention is Orion, the son of Darkseid. He is essentially, the antithesis to his father. The only reason he didn't make it is purely based on his rage, which is a little uncontrollable for him, and therefore makes him more of a liability in a fight than a sure victory, if that makes sense. If you're going to fight, you got to keep your emotions in check to some degree, right? You can't just, go crazy like that.
Yeah. Denzir asks, what is a white hole again?
It's the opposite of a black hole.
Yeah, that's the best. This is the first time I'm hearing of it.
Okay, so it's totally theoretical. It's not like, it radiates Hawking energy, so it's something Stephen Hawking introduced.
Hypothesized.
Yeah, so it's theoretical. Go to Wikipedia and fall asleep on your computer trying to figure out what it all means. Because the only reason I know anything about it was I was trying to figure out whether Captain Marvel's powers had to do with like solar radiation, which they do to some degree, and so therefore, there's a certain individual who will remain nameless that the actress said Captain Marvel's character could beat, which I disagree with, but whatever.
That's ridiculous.
All right, so that's it. That's all I've got because
you mentioned it, so I gotta say it. Her powers are based on sun radiation. Like, he would absorb it and become more powerful if she shot him. Like,
right.
All her power would be to fuel the man who's much stronger than she is. Anyways, so it doesn't make any sense.
So, I mean, it doesn't mean she's not powerful. She's just not the most powerful.
Right.
Despite the company line that Marvel is currently advertising. So, now, in the movie, that may be different, and I won't spoil anything for those of you who haven't seen it, and I'm really talking about Jonathan here. I respect the rest of y'all too, but if he had seen it, I'd say, spoiler, don't listen for the next minute as we talk about this. But anyway.
If I can get it out, I'm going to throw this batarang at you.
All right. Don't mess your computer up like that. It's already having enough technical difficulties. All right, so we're down to our
my honorable mentions. I got some.
Oh yeah, you have honorable mentions?
Sex Hulk.
That's right.
You got me hooked on that now. If you haven't seen some of our other videos, I don't remember which one it was in. It was on I
think it was like our top Marvel characters.
It was a Marvel. It might have been the X-Men or like.
No, it was our top Marvel characters. Because we were using the whiteboard to write the names of the characters down.
So one of our Marvel videos. It was just a couple months ago.
It was around Christmas time.
Yeah, it was. It might have even been right before New Year's. But yeah, I drew a Hulk out of the letter 6, kind of in like the Trogdor the Burninator fashion, but it was a 6 instead of Trogdor.
Yeah.
And so it kind of stuck. He's the official mascot of Superhero Chat.
That's right.
So I guess a couple of people, I'd say I think Raven has potential to be one of the most powerful people in DC.
Right.
She's not quite there yet.
Right.
Although she is pretty crazy. I mean, she's got the power basically of Trigon. I don't think she'll ever get there, mostly because she's actively fighting it because of her fear of losing control.
Right.
And so I think that's good for the character. That's a great tension that you see in the character herself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so she's one of my favorite characters, and definitely a most powerful. So
yeah, I really love the soul self she has. Yeah. I think that's really cool.
So that's pretty much all I got there.
All right,
because you've already talked about the other honorable mentions.
Excellent. So number 2 then is the Silver Surfer. Yeah, so he's got a fraction of Galactus's power and all of the swagger. He's totally cool, dude. Like, he was the best part of the second Fantastic Four movie. And I know in some sense that's really not saying anything, but like the advertisements with him got me hyped for the movie. And I really wish that movie had been better than it was.
I know this has nothing to do with power, but what a design for a character. A silver dude on a surfboard.
Yeah.
Surfing around the galaxy. It's awesome.
That's Stan Lee and Jack Kirby for you, man.
I know, they're great.
Or
they were.
Yeah. It's crazy to think how far removed we are from when they were actively writing comics, and then he died 25 plus years ago. I think it might have been 94.
Yeah.
And then of course Stan Lee last year. So
I don't know that I think they quit before I was born.
Yeah, well, I mean,
as far as active goes.
No, because Stan Lee was writing the first few issues of a comic called Ravage, and he did a few other pieces, but it wasn't anything. Like, Ravage was ongoing for about 6 months, and then that was about it for him.
But anyway, Silver Surfer.
Yeah. He's fought the Hulk. He's fought Thor. He's fought Galactus and lived to tell the tale. He's punked the Fantastic Four by himself.
I mean, we talked about separating off the forces of nature. Well, this guy feeds off of a force, or gets his strength and power from a force of nature.
Right.
So, it's just cray.
Yeah, that's right. There you go, dropping that lit terminology that kids are all about these days.
We're in the groove with the young.
The young, I love the young folks. Play for Life Comics. It keeps me young.
I'm in the jive.
Ignore the gray in my beard.
I'm in the jive with them.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you're on the jazz. And you're talking that jive talk. Anyway,
right.
Silver Surfer. He's super powerful. And everybody in the Marvel Universe regularly recognizes his power level. So when you've got the respect of Doctor Strange, you've got the respect of Hulk and Thor and the rest of Marvel's elite, that says something. I just wish he had the respect of the comic reading audience. And I wish they'd make a movie where he'd be respectful. But otherwise, it's pretty obvious that he's got the goods and he knows how to use them. So,
yeah. All right. Lastly, number one, drum roll. I've got a drum over here I could use.
I'm sorry, do we actually have to say this out loud? Because I thought it was pretty obvious by now.
6 Hawk? No.
That's
Superman. Right. Superman. Of course it's Superman. Yeah, it's who else?
It's hard not to pick Superman for this, right?
Right. I mean,
like we tried not to, just because we're like, is there anybody else? And of course, we came down with no.
Well, if we were including villains and forces of nature, he probably wouldn't be.
Right.
But,
Galactus would be like a burrito.
He is the poster boy of superheroes. He is the superhero.
He is the prototypical superhero.
So, Danzier, one thing we said, he said Silver Surfer couldn't beat Superman. Here's what we'd say. Just because you could beat somebody doesn't mean that you're more powerful. So, it's kind of like we were saying with Hulk and Wonder Woman. We feel like Wonder Woman could beat Hulk.
Right.
And Hulk could beat Thor,
Right, because
Hal Jordan can beat Superman. Wally West can beat Superman. But that doesn't mean that they're not less powerful. And so, we're trying to gauge not who would win in a fight, although I still feel like overall Superman would still win the majority of his fights. He's the most powerful overall, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that he's basically a solar radiation battery,
right?
And so he absorbs it in, and the more he absorbs, the more and more powerful he gets, to the point where you just don't stand a chance. He literally talks about walking around and, like on eggshells, trying not to
in a world of
break everything.
Right.
So, and one of my favorite parts in the Justice League is when he comes up. I forget who it is.
Darkseid.
Is it Darkseid? Because I thought it was what's that other guy? The guy who faces Kyle Rayner in the first series. What's that guy's name?
Mongol. Yeah,
it was Mongol.
It's Darkseid.
Okay. Well, he's like, I'm always walking on eggshells, but finally I have somebody that I can hit without fear of breaking. And so he just lays into him, and it's so beautiful. It's a great thing. Danzier says he smells biased. Hey, Lewis is a huge Silver Surfer fan, so he's...
Dude, when I heard they got Namor, I'm like, give me a real Defenders movie.
So you talk about that one issue where Superman basically becomes godlike because he's absorbed so much solar radiation.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a little bit too crazy. But still, if he went up into the sun for a little while, I don't think Silver Surfer, even with his a little bit of ability to, or a little bit of his power of Galactus, I think Superman would still be able to beat him. I was a little shaky there, but yeah. So, in terms of idol worship, no, Superman. I feel like I don't know that Silver Surfer really has the ability to get more powerful than he is.
No.
He's at a max level.
Unless Galactus gives him more power.
Right.
And in the future, he gets the quantum bands. Or in one possible future. So in that instance, he would be more powerful.
But Superman pretty much has potential to get, very, very powerful.
Right. So like in one comic, he got he absorbed so much radiation that it turned out where he couldn't come back to Earth until he expended some of that, because he would be radiating to the point where it would be harmful to the humans around him. I think that was during the the Superman Exile in Space storyline, which led to the Panic in the Sky storyline, which involves Mongol and World and Brainiac and some other stuff. It was a really good story. So Roger Stern is an amazing writer. Sorry, I'm thumbing through my phone trying to find that.
Andrew, what do you mean by who has more influence?
In what? Yeah.
In what way? But yeah, Superman. I feel like he's always going to be on the top. And who's going to win in a fight? It's going to be Superman. And you know, spoiler. And who's the strongest? It's going to be Superman.
Yeah.
If you count some of the villains, then you know they're probably there's people who can beat him. Or who are more powerful than he is. I still think he can take them, but that doesn't mean he's not more powerful. Who would people be more likely to rally behind? So Superman, I think people would follow Superman, and that's kind of the idea behind the character.
In their respective universe or in reality, here with us.
I assume it means either.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd fall after Superman because he is that kind of Boy Scout kind of guy.
Right.
He's always moral.
But, I mean, Silver Surfer is something of a pure being, which is why Mephisto is always trying to get at his soul, because Silver Surfer sacrificed himself to save his own home planet by becoming Silver Surfer. So, I think Superman has more notoriety, but I think if people know who they are, they'll get behind either one of them, if that makes sense.
Well, I just feel like Superman's just more well known.
Right.
Hey, Brianna Nova just said she subbed and liked. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and subbing and liking. And welcome to the family. You know, we want to build a comic family here. Hope you've enjoyed listening to us ramble on. But thanks, we really appreciate it.
I found the speech of Superman.
You found it?
Yeah. So he's fighting Darkseid, and he says, "That man, speaking of Batman, won't quit so long as he can draw breath. None of my teammates will. Me? I've got a different problem." As he punches Darkseid through a wall. I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard. Always taking care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, or someone could die. As he punches Darkseid again. But you can take it, can't you, big man? What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am. And that's when he pulls back and he punches him and he sends him flying across the city. And then he meets him there and he pounds him in the ground. It's such an awesome scene. That's like one of the best scenes. Like they built up to that moment. Like it is well earned by Superman in that series.
That was a great speech.
Yes.
So.
That whole thing, like, because originally the creators of that show were like, if we're gonna have Superman, we have to power him down. We have to make these villains credible threats to him. How can we do that? And they excellently relied a lot of times on putting, like, Superman having to choose to stop the villain or save the day, so to speak. And then, you know, Darkseid has just been, beat back, but at the same time, he's not been decisively beaten by Superman. And then we have this moment where Superman's like, you know what? Screw you, dude. I'm going to do me. And pow! And it's amazing. It's just so perfect. It's like, so the Superman series and that right there, you know, meet up and you're just like, yes, this is what I've looked forward to.
Well, I think that's just the first time you meet Darkseid. I think that's like...
No, Darkseid was... No. So Darkseid was throughout the Superman cartoon series that predates...
I'm talking about in the Justice League thing.
But it's not. Because he was in an episode in Season 2 of the Justice League. It's his first appearance in Justice League Unlimited.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Because he shows up a number of times, if I remember right, in Unlimited.
No, Darkseid doesn't.
Doesn't? No. Okay.
No,
maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. Yeah, I need to watch it again. Unfortunately, they took it off Netflix, and I was very disappointed about that.
Well, it's because DC's putting it on their streaming.
I need to get on.
Go to Walmart and buy it, dude. They have the whole series for less than $30 right now.
I know. I'm just
broke. I know.
Anyways, well, let us know what you guys think. We'd love to hear from you. Who do you think is the most powerful? I'm sure that some people would probably argue that there's others that deserve to be on this list. Give us your best arguments in the comments.
We'll listen to any arguments as long as you don't say Batman.
Yes, please not Batman. I mean, you know, if you think Six Hulk is the best, go ahead and give this video a like. No. We appreciate y'all watching. If you've made it this far, if you're here for the live, new subscribers, thank you. We appreciate it. We just love talking about comic books and really anything sci-fi. And so it's getting pretty late, so we gotta get out of here. But
yeah, because I gotta get up at 5.
Oh, fun. I gotta drive down there in a day, so
yeah, that's true. Times. So look for something from us on Wednesday.
That's right, Wednesday. What time would you say?
We'll talk about that when we get off, and we'll post something on the Facebook page, or you can make another video about it tomorrow.
We're too small of a channel to post on YouTube, so if you haven't, go find us on Facebook. We will try to do better about being updated on there. But we'll give you an update of what time we're going to post Eastern time. But we'll be doing something Wednesday, hopefully a live video. Brandon might show up if we can convince him.
Yeah, right. But, that'll be the big if.
We'll at least be in Wake Forest around Play for Life Comics.
That's right.
So
if you're in Wake Forest around Play for Life Comics, come and see us.
That's right. So, hey, I mean, yeah. So, again, let us know what you think. Tell us who you think is the most powerful, why you think they're the most powerful. Love to have a discussion with us. Again, if you do it, send us a message or post it on Facebook. Me and Lewis will be able to talk because Lewis doesn't do a lot of the YouTube stuff, but he is able to edit on Facebook. So,
and Dan's ear can testify that we will carry on conversation about different things because we've talked with him at length on Venom and some other things. So
So feel free to do that. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing, and we will catch you next time if my computer will work. Okay. We're going to hold that pose.